It's a good day to fight, and today we will be fighting against division and discord among right-wingers. It's not a big secret that right-wing political world or right-wing sphere has quite a lot of division and infighting, which ironically sometimes seems to be inversely proportionate to the actual chances and abilities to influence or affect state policies. Therefore, infighting might be a part of psychological compensation which hides slim chances of getting into actual policy making, but there are also many other factors in play. In this video, I would like to address some of the issues and possible causes of discords and give my opinion on when attacking someone on the same political spectrum may be a good idea and when it is destructive behavior that leads to creating of highly toxic atmosphere. Now, in advance, don't get me wrong. There are many people on the internet who are great and incredibly constructive and useful, but we are looking at the conflicts here, so inevitably this video might feel a bit too gloomy or pessimistic just because of the specific issues it's dealing with. So yeah, be prepared and keep it in mind. Let us briefly list some of possible causes of useless and destructive infighting between different right-wing factions, personalities and movements, on the internet mainly. The first one, already mentioned, psychological compensation. Humans in general, and especially those politically active, tend to strive for activity, for victories, for leadership, authority and recognition among other people. When roads to these achievements are blocked, some people will start to redirect their energy to different or lesser goals. In these cases, aggressively attacking and sort of defeating someone ideologically different might seem like a worthy activity. When you can't really achieve grand goals of stopping illegal immigration, you might be prone to redirect your attention to find some scapegoats among ideologically impure right-wingers. In this case, small illusionary victory on YouTube might give you some sort of satisfaction and compensate for overall disappointment in politics or in social life. Another point is fanatical adherence to your own ideology, dogmas, leaders or organizations. Now, this might be a useful thing for a party that actually gets into politics, because loyalty and adherence to fundamental principles may be exactly what they need to live through hardships, to patiently work on increasing their influence, etc. But when members of a small movement or a small organizations become aggressively fanatical in their teachings, it will usually lead only to stagnation. Unless you are next big religion prophet or you are somehow getting control over new wave in politics, which still requires a lot of patience and ability to persuade other people rather than outright calling them useless, infidel, irredeemable trash. The third one is toxic competitiveness. Usually competitiveness is a healthy thing, which may lead to new discoveries, new strategies and higher standards, but when coupled with the wrong motivation or wrong environment, competitiveness may become toxic and destructive. The best example of it might be a desire to score maximum retweets or to get maximum views at any cost, even at the expense of someone else or at the expense of the whole movement. When right-wing sphere is oftentimes limited to podcasts and social networks, the competition becomes slightly distorted, because it's a competition in an oversaturated field, with not that many alternatives and leeways to achieve victories somewhere else. So while mainstream, center and left competes in many different fields like education, politics, foreign policy, security, grants, exhibitions, unions and many other fields, right-wingers are extremely limited in their current activities. Even though right-wing ideas may have a good representation on the internet, they are also competing mainly for the internet audience. This leads to distorted perception of goals and productive activity, which leads to infighting and toxic competitiveness. Another problem stems from the previous. Without adequate fields of activity, without adequate goals, there is no clear understanding on what exactly one must achieve today or tomorrow. Since there is not many real-life action, there is no understanding who might be a good ally and who brings only troubles. Internet does not reflect this properly, and personal clashes are more and more frequent, and hostile factions who group around some mainly internet personalities see no reasons to cease hostility. So instead of developing clear strategies which would explain why and when you should tolerate some differences, right-wingers on the internet are more likely to create some factions as they see no motivation to work on ideas together. Being flashy, being edgy means more and brings more satisfaction in terms of views or retweets. The quality of this type of satisfaction is not evaluated. Speaking of quality, as real-life organizations will know, to build a good mini-community you need adequate people. You don't really need edgy or entertaining folks that much, one or two will suffice to liven up the atmosphere, but mainly you need reliable members who can work on ideas in events, who have persistence, who can work with other people, who have willpower and understanding of strategy, and who have knowledge needed in that particular area where they are active. This usually defines quality in ranks of actual organizations. Now, as you can see, it's very different from your typical internet type right-winger, where it's never about him being reliable or cooperative, but more about delivering punchlines against SJVs, or against someone deemed heretical in particular right-wing circles. It never translates well in real-world quality, and it promotes different qualities. The problem here, when you are on the internet, it's hard to look at these things from this point of view. It only becomes obvious when you participate in real-life events and activities. Therefore, internet simply does not create enough motivation for cooperative work on ideas. As you probably know, a lot of right-wing internet personalities got their fame by being anti-SJV or anti-feminist, and while it's a good thing, it may sometimes lead to distorted perception of strategies needed to build an actual community. Just being anti-something oftentimes fails to build a proper bonds between members of a particular organization, movement or community. Not only people are attracted to those who can actively bash leftists while forgetting about building foundation for their own community, they also start to choose the wrong people as their role models. Imagine picking a president based on a football or basketball game results. This is what happens when anti-SJV activity overshadows everything else. While it's good to have someone on the offense, we cannot abandon everything in the name of owning libtards or something. This is why, by the way, even the phrase owning libtards has got a dubious connotations lately, when some people pretty much abandoned important values and ideas for the sake of pursuing this revealing hypocrisy of the left type of activities, and now are owning libtards by celebrating massive gay pride parades in Israel.
Massive gay pride parades in Israel.
In real-life organizations, infighting can happen as well, but if there is a decent leadership, then real-life organization has a lot less of needless and groundless infighting. This is because in real life you always know what each member has brought to the organization or community. Even if you have some disagreements, you will keep in mind that particular member is a good organizer. Another member can bring some muscle to a heated event. Another one can train people. Someone is contributing by bringing camera and then editing videos. The point is that your fellow members of real community are not just names on Facebook or Twitter, which makes communication between you more considerate, because you value each other a lot more, even if you are not close friends. This is something internet right-wingers usually lack, as groups, pages or channels are oftentimes just a place for opinion exchange, where everyone is concentrating on his opinion while not seeing value of another opinion, since there is no common activity or means to evaluate other people's contribution to the common cause. And the last point here. Unfortunately, modern right wing does not have clear moral authorities or widely accepted moral compasses to deal with infighting. There is no judges and there is no code of proper behavior, and it's difficult to compare things to evaluate proper contribution. While there are certainly common values, you can't claim that anyone who says that he is, let's say, pro-white, pro-European, pro-Western, is actually a valuable member of community. For example, take a look at religious communities. Who are considered as proper members of church or religious organizations? Those who behave accordingly to moral standards of these organizations or church. Those who lead by example. Screaming that you are pro-God while being annoying and divisive does not bring anything valuable, right? Or take, for example, a community based around the software. Who is the most valuable member? The one most helpful, the one with the most knowledge and valuable input, the polite and kind. No one needs a rude and ignorant guy who just screams how every other software sucks or how he loves this particular software and how he would kill for it. The same should apply to right-wing sphere, but because of distorted ways of political internet communities, who oftentimes stay on the internet forever without having clear guidelines or goals, they fail at this point, and this is amplified by the fact that many internet users believe that one of the best ways to make a name for yourself is to be radical and harsh, without any regards of results and outcomes for the movements as a whole. What can be done to improve overall situation? Here is a list of possibilities. First of all, more real-life action, more real-life experience. It's very important to get away from the screen, from the nicknames, and get together with people, see them in real life. This is crucial to build a healthy community or movement, and it gives you much better understanding of important priorities and qualities. But what if you are limited with the internet activity for now? Well, then try to build your internet community on the base of being helpful and contributing to common goal. This is why it always helps to have some common activities on your group or page or channel. Not just entertainment and reaction to news, but having some research going on, some petitions, letters or article writing, common video projects, supporting a website and providing some help to its existence and content. Basically, you want to mimic real-life community as much as you can, with consideration of anonymity or safety, of course, by creating an atmosphere of contributing members instead of just some faceless right-wingers who don't really have actual common activity. For example, you might want to study activities of other internet communities, even some non-political, like a software fan forum or dog owners forum. They still might give you some ideas on internet community building, on the ways of encouraging quality contribution. Do not condone divisive people, no matter how entertaining they might be. If someone makes his fame on constant attacks against everyone on the right wing and spends most of his time in constant witch hunts, they should not be leading internet personalities of right-wing sphere. They should see that their behavior is not getting them anywhere. Do not donate, do not retweet, do not subscribe, and if you comment on them, make sure you make it clear that their behavior is seen as destructive. Another thing, there is no much sense and it's not very constructive to attack people for being moderate due to their temperament or field of activity. It's really annoying to see someone being attacked only because he doesn't feel confident enough to speak about particular topic and avoids it, leaving it for someone with more expertise or knowledge. You should never aggressively force people into spouting radical slogans when this achieves nothing. Yes, you might want to normalize them, but not at the expense of alienating people completely. Promote and support people, channels, personalities, or internet communities who have a valuable input, who are cooperative and willing to commit to long-term strategies to community building. Promote those who create content based on knowledge, observations, and experience, rather than just endless bashing and owning everyone whom they disagree with. Save your attacks for those people who are derailing others, who keep others as slaves of leftist paradigm. Don't just attack people for merely having different views. What would count as derailing? For example, the idea that without those truly racist liberals, multi-race, multicultural society would be totally fine. This is example of hard derailing, using dissatisfaction with liberals to promote essentially liberal agenda. Another example of derailing is promoting the idea that tolerance, social democracy, social justice, feminism, etc. are truly Western ideas and values, and only those Muslims threaten them. This creates weird situation when leftist ideas are presented as Christian or European values, which is completely false and only strengthens the hold of leftist paradigm over the West. Attack pandering, and always make sure that you make it very clear that it's exactly pandering that annoys you. Try to put it so that the person in question understands. Fans would support him if he chooses to stand his ground against some sort of condemnation or liberal outrage, and it's exactly pandering and humiliation that might bring storm and disappointment among fans. Attack for some big mistakes, but always make sure to specify them. It looks really bad when someone reads a personal attacks in a comment section but does not understand why on earth the person in question is attacked. He then proceeds to believe that it's either jealousy or trolling, and he gets the impression that the right-wing community is incredibly childish or toxic. So don't troll without clearly referencing to the specific scene of this person. Ideally, you want the person to acknowledge his or her mistake and not just to troll or annoy him or her. Do not attack religion of another right-winger, unless it's some sort of outrageous renegade or degenerate stuff. Do not try to troll him into changing denomination. It's laughable strategy and it's destructive behavior. No one is going to change denomination because of being annoyed, and those who would are usually quite dubious addition to any charge. Don't shove topics that are considered conspiracy theories down to someone's throat, especially if you are interested in this audience or particular person. Conspiracy theories have bad reputation of being a thing of political nerds, neckbeard pseudo-fascists, and generally speaking a thing of weird people, socially awkward and isolated. I remember one friend of mine always criticized me for not naming some groups of people and for preferring to stick to political affiliations. The problem was that for him, for a person who built his image and reputation on this topic, that was considered a conspiracy, it was much harder to sow doubts in minds than for me to hint something similar and get a lot of more acceptance, because my reputation was never about crazy theories. So if I hinted something, my friends would see it as a fact and a real observation, as I was very far from typical basement-dwelling conspiracy guy image. Unfortunately, a lot of people seem to be hell-bent on idea of forcing other people to accept all of their theories, regardless of the fact how many clashes and division it causes. Another point about radicalism. Being radical might be a good thing, but it might be destructive. Being radical in the most effective strategy, being loyal to the most efficient system may be a good thing, but what you certainly have to avoid is being radical for the sake of being radical. Being radical for the sake of tough guy image, for the ability to throw insults at those who are a bit more moderate than you, this type of radicalism is childish. Radicalism is good when it opens path for a change, when it strengthens the absolute values that inspire people, when it normalizes something good or pushes the overtone window to the right. Then it's fine to be radical. However, fighting to the death with someone on the internet when you are pretty much fringe movement without possibilities to capitalize on your super firm stance may have some wrong reasons and motivations behind it. Okay, to end this video, I would like to quickly summarize everything. Widen your range of activity, bring it to real life, and it will help to develop appropriate non-internet qualities. Having additional type of ideological achievements, organizing educational events, training sessions, or exchange of ideas in real life, strengthening bonds with your actual compatriots, with your local religious community, will inevitably lead to a new, better perception of the potential of the internet communications and communities, which will alleviate all the dangerous trends I mentioned, like psychological compensation or toxic competitiveness. So that's it. Leave a comment if you agree or disagree with this video, hit a like button, subscribe to my channel, follow me on Gab or Twitter, and thanks for watching and have a nice day.